Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, fine feathered individuals, to break down a little bit of League of their own action from the Red Bull event. All the big boys in Europe, fun time as always over in Germany, and it was very German themed from the very get-go. You got Bavarian marching bands coming out for the no-name org to kick things off. This event, start to finish, it was fun, and first and foremost, that's what you're looking for from this event.
Flat out, it's a success. And I mean, I don't mean to be too over the moon about it, but I think kind of going through, and it really did bring up old memories of what we have had in the past as far as for fun type of events, all-star type of things after the World Championship has ended. And I think in comparison, this absolutely is the way to handle an event like this in a format, and the way that things played out on the day. It was fantastic. And as you said, yeah, getting into the local flavor and theme and going out there with the Bavarian band for NWO, we love seeing those type of things to kick off the event.
And we love seeing to kick off the ultimate Fearless draft, which again, we memed on it for being best of one, but it was like it used to be just against T1, but for everybody, once the champions picked, they're done for the day. And G2 in game one trying to say, well, let's just remove all the marksmen from the game for everybody else at this event.
Oh, it's a strategy and it worked, right? That's one of the ways to take this one through, and especially when you're playing with a for fun event like this, and it is under those extreme type of situational circumstance like the extended Fearless draft. Yeah, go for an angle like this. We've talked about it. We've seen it already in regular Fearless draft within a series, trying to eliminate a certain position, a certain style of champion. Why not here, and why not like this from G2?
And, I mean, Skewmond might have been the best AD carry on the squad in this one. Had a great game on the Ezreal, and again, that was against NNO to kind of kick things off for G2, which they looked like they were having the most fun at this event, because you go from there to the all-actual LEC showdown, even though KC had a bunch of subs, and Caps comes on. Sorry, definitely not Caps with the cap on. He's got the beard, but the gameplay on the Rift was most definitely Caps on the LeBlanc in that game. And KC probably had the most serious drafts throughout the day, but G2 was as well in this matchup.
Yeah, there was maybe a little bit of extra attention put to these matches by the boys. I think you can say quite fairly on both sides of Summoner's Rift. G2 coming away with this one, and yes, you can put on as many disguises, you could put whatever clothes on the man. That's Cap's gameplay right there, and especially on the LeBlanc that we have seen him utilize within the LEC, and we get to see it at this event. Really get that terror, get that damage threat out there. Really happy for that for Caps, and again, for fun event, but still good early signs, things that you want to keep track of and give those check marks before you see them again next time around when it's the real deal. Caps is getting one of those easy early ones from us, I think, with the way that he played throughout the entirety of this event.
And now all of a sudden it's becoming a tradition. Second straight year, a new T1 member makes their debut at this Red Bull event. It was Doran last year. We had to wait a couple games for T1 to actually make the stage. Obviously, Faker gets an insane cheer, but Pay's walking out, and you could see him kind of smirking like, everybody's this excited for a Red Bull event just because we're on T1, but it's definitely a soft debut for these T1 new players.
It's one of those angles where, you can ask that question. What does T1 get out of this? What are you doing this for type of questioning? And there's one of the answers, is having a soft type of landing if you have a new player joining the organization, stepping in to big shoes, because again, let's face it, any of these members leave T1, it is a big, spot, big ask to replace what they have been able to do. To have an event like this, to welcome you on into what is the T1 lifestyle, what it is to be in that center of attention like no other organization can feel due to the passion and fan base of T1. Here it is for Pays, and yeah, you got a pretty good smile out of him, I think, getting to soak it on in, get to experience what it is to be the mega stars that T1 is, headlining their own for fun event like this.
Get a pretty good smile too when you get 2 kills on Zeri at level 1 to kick things off. But credit where credit's due. G2 was actually locked in this game, and I know they ended like 45 kills in 28 minutes or something. So anytime, you know, it's still not a serious match, but G2 looked the most locked in here and become the holders of the unofficial World Championship belt by taking down T1.
That's what we're all here for, right? Is the unofficial World Championship belt. That one carries a ton of significance. It really doesn't, but it absolutely is a nice thing to go into the winter break, right? And before you have the next time around. And again, as I've mentioned, having those positive thoughts, positive, good early signs about a squad, about individuals. This matchup, as much as it was still, yes, very loose, very questionable choices being taken that you wouldn't be seeing under real circumstances, this was good execution from the side of G2 against what is, again, very strong players together on the side of T1. So happy to see that G2 is able to deliver for the European fans this way.
And, you know, confident enough to throw Pays in on the jungle vein for some of these matchups going forward, which was interesting to say at the very least. Interesting comps were kind of a theme across the board, and you had this nemesis drafting that went on later where No Way and the boys were drafting 4 other players, and somehow we end up with the first Zahen sighting on a professional game. Even for fun, these are still professional games, and you just got a little glimpse of the release power level. You bet your bottom dollar this dude is going to be heavily nerfed before he sees the actual pro stage, because Doran winning a 1v4 resurrecting with 70% health before 20 minutes, I don't think you want to see in meaningful stage games.
This is as bad as it is. I'm bringing all the alarm bells. Fire alarm level 7. We're skipping 5 and 6. We're going all the way to the tippity top here. This has to be the craziest things we've seen from Riot Games to deliver a champion like this. Basically a 3.0 of Aatrox back with the death from Revive, and then you've sprinkled in some of the worst things that people experience against Mbessa and a Cassante type of situation. Not happy with this one. You're happy when you're playing this champion, but you are the only individual in the world happy in that moment when Zahen is on Summoner's Rift doing these type of things.
At the very least, maybe we'll get a Cassante copy pasta meme that Showmaker made level out of Zahen, because yes, if he's even 70% of the power level that he's at right now, I think it's going to be a lot of disgusting gameplay to see out of whoever locks him in, which has been, again, a theme. Cassante and Mbessa, it's just the never-ending carousel of completely busted top laners that we've gotten over the last couple of years. This thing wrapped up with the Las Ratones matching up against T1, and somehow we get to the final game of the day, and it was obviously a gentleman's handshake. T1 says, "All right, boss, bring out the Scion. It's fine. It's what the people want. You can play it. You can one-shot Faker from 70% health with a charged Q from the bush. It's all good."
That's exactly why we're talking about this event being what we are talking about it as. So positive an effect, so much so a difference from previous For Fun events, because everyone's following the rules at the very least here. And this is one of the biggest rules of a For Fun event, is you do not take away the signature champions. You do not deny the fans what they want to see, and what everyone wanted to see out of a potential Las Ratones T1 matchup was at the very least the bounce on the Scion, and we got to see it. We got to see the solo bolos. We got to see him take out Faker. You got to see Las Ratones take down the world champions. This was absolutely a matchup that we've been dreaming about getting to see. For fun or not, this was a lot of good times on Summoner's Rift.
And how about Velia on, Cassiopeia, a pick I'm sure he's not that comfortable on, but back-to-back outplays on the GOAT himself. And anytime you hear interviews, I feel like it's always these LR players just going out of their way to hype up Velia, even when he's trying to be humble maybe, or it's just great to see these guys hyping him up, and great to see him in a good mood.
I think I'm very much so interested in what's going to happen at the end of the LEC versus situation, because there isn't anything really on the horizon or confirmed or rumored really about what Las Ratones will be doing as an extension of this, project, experiment, whatever, as far as playing on the professional stage. Velia needs to be on a professional stage to continue right after that one in the situation. So certainly going to be paying very close attention, and even more so after the way that he has shown some early signs again that you want to be giving that good green check mark to early at this point heading towards next year.
It really does feel like this first split is going to be a fantastic display and showcase for not just Velia, but even guys like Nemesis and Crowny to kind of show against the tier 1 European competition. Sure, you've done it in the ERLs, you've dominated, but see how they can compete. And if they're styling on some of these lower to mid-tier LEC teams, no question, come split 2 or 3, that these teams are going to come calling and say, okay, you styled on us, want to style with us for the last 2 splits?
I think it's absolutely going to create more so of an environment where you can see teams going through the off season, right, through these periods, making the changes that they want to, but using that first split as that testing dish, as that trial period, and taking notice around the league of the situations and saying, okay, here is a pivot point where you can still have enough runway room with the rest of the year to envision, making growth from whatever change you need to make. But this is the point where you can have a little bit of extra data, a little feeling, and make one of those type of changes in comparison to previous splits in the past. So I think that is something I want to look at specifically with the environment and landscape that is available within the LEC.
So all in all, successful event. Biggest thing to take away from it for me is there's been 4 fun events in the past. I'm thinking especially some of these all-star events where, yes, they were still kind of serious, but they tried the different angles where it was more ridiculous and non-competitive. But it almost felt like the players were just obliged to be there. Maybe didn't actually want to be there. It's in their contract. They have to be at these Riot events, going through the motions, not really caring about the interviews. Everyone seemed excited to be here. Even G2 coming off a crushing end at Worlds less than a month ago, barely a month ago. T1 coming from the highest of summits of the World Championship to a whirlwind one-day event in Germany. And Owner's taking selfies as he comes up. He's excited to be there. Pays is making his debut. Every player that was involved at this event seemed happy and excited to be there.
No question, this is the better path for a fun event. And I think it really is understanding that this is just one of the simple avenues that esports differs from traditional sports. Traditional sports, that's always about, let me see this star player. Oh, he's got to play with this other star player. And, you can combine all the individual aspects of it. And that certainly was the angle that we were going for with the previous all-star events, having, we've got Doublelift and Bjergsen every year from the LCS representing. We'll throw them in with whatever from the LPL and LCK, and at least having these type of teams where it is now about the organizations carrying on through to these 4 fun events, that I think is really the pivot point that I like for this one with the Red Bull League of Their Own event. And we are seeing it pay off with that investment that fans are able to have with these organizations representing at 4 fun events.
And obviously T1 as a brand organization doing the heavy lifting for this event and the sponsorship with Red Bull. But if you're other leagues or other teams, I'm paying attention to this, seeing what works and seeing if we can mimic or replicate something domestically with teams or as a collaboration with other regions. That's how big of a success this was. And it's not as simple as just dropping T1 off at all these different regions, because eventually they will have burnout and too busy of a schedule to be able to do that. But either way, big check mark for this Red Bull event across the board. Whether or not we give a check mark to what changes are coming for 2026 remains to be seen, but Riot doing the usual preseason drop in terms of changes that are coming. Maybe less sweeping than we've seen in years past, but we now know it's going to be Demacia taking over the Rift for Split 1 in 2026, and we know that, as many people I think kind of guessed, Otacon and Feats of Strength both gone from the game as Riot tries to refocus. There was too much team fighting, 5v5 emphasis. They want to bring back some sieging and split pushing elements for the new year.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely a necessary removal from the game. I think these two in particular were maybe oversteps in that path of trying to push for that team style of gameplay. It seemed too forced too often in a game that you had to push and had to group up for these type of moments and have a confrontation like that, where I think this will be a more natural progression of some of these engagements, some of these pushes, and then allow for different strategies to come through and really breathe a little bit easier compared to what constraints and what type of scheduling you'd push yourself under given the objectives that you had to contest and the way feats of strengths worked out. Happy to see those removed. Now you're going to tell us, though, there is still another shoe to drop when you're talking about changes with Riot Games, because no matter how you feel about something good, there's probably something equally as bad hanging out behind it in the dark shadows.
There's got to be gimmicks to come along with any new season, and of course, preseason is where we test to see how busted. Do we need to remove Chemdrake? Yes, absolutely, get rid of Chemtech Drake. But the lighter changes, again, doubling down on the more sieging, split pushing, different styles of gameplay. Phalites are being introduced, which are going to be little circular pockets in different bushes, and more will be added as the elemental drakes come in, which, to my understanding, it's just going to widen the range of vision that you're getting from wards, so strategically placing where you want to put them, maybe giving more vision for these split pushers to be able to push without getting ganked, which we know is a top lane special.
I think that this is absolutely going to lead to a couple of mistakes from supports trying to clear out of extra value ward or try to place down that extra value ward and get caught out of position within these team fights, because you better believe getting an extra valuable, again, an extra vision percentage, surface for your ward in these crucial areas. Yeah, that's invaluable when you're talking about these type of things. But just like any type of vision, it can't come at the cost of putting yourself in too dangerous of a position at a bad time. So that's certainly something that I think is going to be where you're going to have to see some play styling adapt. I think the Phalites, when you're talking about how they're implemented, I think where you're going to see them is absolutely where I'm focused on this one.
Yeah, still need a lot more info. How big of a boost does it give before we can fully judge what's going on there? And then we're hearing turret plates are going to go beyond 14 minutes and be on every single turret. They're obviously going to spread out how much gold you're getting from them, and they're adding something called crystalline overgrowth, which sounds essentially like a mega demolisher proc, where over time the turrets will build up these crystals, and if somebody hits them, it's a big explosion, again, to encourage sieging or split pushing at the right moments.
I think this was one that I do like. I like having that added in. I think it was kind of one of those ones where, at the end of the day, if you weren't playing a champion with Demolisher, not having that type of aspect towards taking down towers did feel bad. So having that for everybody, happy to see that one being implemented here.
It's at least another type of strategy or level that teams can add. And then we get to the big gimmick that is role quests. We already know the jungle pet is a thing. Support item quests have been around for a while, but now top, mid, and bot will all be getting their own versions. And top lane first, you complete the quest, kill minions, takedowns, whatever it ends up being. You get a free teleport. That's right. If you take Flash Ignite, you can still get TP. And if you opt for TP from the get-go, you get a mega TP that's going to give you a huge shield. And they also kind of glossed over, you get an increased level cap. I don't know what that means, but if there's a level 25 Ornn running around, I don't think it will ever die.
Let me just make one thing really clear. When we're making these support items and the quests that are coming through with them, it's very clear when you look at jungle and support that these are just simple, more or less, smaller upgrade, little change in the identification on how you can play and what you're capable of. These are completely game-breaking type of rules that we are changing for the top lane, for the mid lane, and for the bottom lane with these support quest items. Things simply as champions that would have to make that decision about Flash Ignite, Flash Teleport, and these type of changes. Now you've got the possibility to say, screw it, I'm rolling Flash Ignite, and I'll still be able to cover in for Baron fight later, or teleport down for Elder Dragon, or whatever situation. That is absolutely game busting. These are some breaking type of things that we are going to see that will change how we expect and how you pace out this game.
Mid lane, I said feats of strength are gone, but tier 3 boots will be available for mid laners when they finish this quest item, as well as an enhanced recall, which looks exactly like the Baron recall, which, will be absolutely insane on most mid lane champions. And AD carry side, it's just, you get an even bigger bag of money, a cash lump sum when you complete the quest, and eventually you will be able to get 7 item slots, that 7th one taking up boots. So yes, you can go 6 full build and not have to sell boots.
Oh boy, there's a lot to discuss with this one. I think for the mid lane, the immediate reaction for me is this is a way to manufacture the mid lane position to be the most influential, most impactful position on an individual scale, because you're talking about players like Faker, Chovy, Knight, Caps, having the ability, right, being the only position out there with those tier 3 boots, having the advantages that those can provide. And with the enhanced recall, that's the big one for me as well, making you be able to pick up that pace and change it around where you are and able to influence the game. When you go to the bottom lane, I think it is, absolutely. It is leaning into all the things an ADC will want. More gold, more damage, numbers coming on through, picking up all these items.
It's not that exciting, though. You just get a bunch more money. Okay.
It doesn't really change or game break the same way where, again, top lane, you're breaking some very established rules that we have understood about the position, about the, equations that you have to make for choices. Mid lane, the pressure, the abilities that you are gaining are breaking some of what you've established. So I'm not so thrilled about the bottom lane change, but I think that absolutely on different scales, the top lane and the mid lane one are of that game-breaking type of territory.
It's still preseason, so I'm sure it'll be busted and fixed over many times before it goes live for the regular season. But excited for any changes, as we always are. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you, absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out. Catch you on that flippity flip.